الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. When the number of Muslims reached 38 in Mecca, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam permission to announce their Islam openly. Up till this point, they had been accepting Islam and practicing it secretly, and not making a big announcement about it, not talking about it too much to people. Because anyone who was found to have accepted Islam was persecuted. They were tortured, they were captured, they were beaten. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu requested the Prophet ﷺ that let us declare it openly. So the Prophet ﷺ told him, look Abu Bakr, we're still very few in number. There's only 38 of us. He said, no, we are enough. Let us announce it openly. So when he continued to insist, the Prophet ﷺ allowed him. So all the Muslims at that time, that small group of 38, they came into Al-Masjid al-Haram, the Grand Mosque at Mecca, around the Kaaba. And everyone went into little groups and little corners based on their families, sitting with their relatives at the edges of the place where everyone makes tawaf. The Prophet ﷺ himself sat down in front of the Kaaba. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu stood up, and in front of everyone he gave the first khutbah in Islam and the first open invitation in the history of Islam. He stood up and he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. And he announced it to all the people that were in the haram. And this was unacceptable. This was a breach of everything that society upheld. This went against everything they knew and they believed. And they were not going to put up with it. So all the people who were there, the people of Quraysh, they pounced on Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and all the Muslims that were sitting in the corners. And because there were so many of them in number, hundreds of them, they started really beating down on this small group of 38 people. And a whole mob of them attacked Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu alone. And they started beating him and beating him. And one of them took his shoe, which had a hard sole, and he started pounding it into the face of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. And he pounded and grinded his face so hard that his nose became flattened. And they beat him so much that he lost consciousness. Meanwhile, the tribe of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Banu Taym, found out that this is happening. They came running and they pulled those people off. And they carried him unconscious away into his home, where his father Abu Quhafa and some other people of his tribe, they continued to try to revive him, get him back into consciousness, but he wasn't coming around. And people thought that he's not going to recover from this, he's going to die. At the end of the day, by evening time, he did recover, he regained consciousness. And as soon as he woke up, the first question he asked was, "Ma fa'ala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam?" How is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? How did he fare? How is he? So the people of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu's tribe, they were disgusted. They said, "You just about lost your life because of this. And now, you've just regained consciousness, and instead of thinking of your own life, you're asking about him." They were really upset, and they said a lot of things to him and they left. But they told his mother that please give him something to eat and something to drink because he's very weak. He might not come out of this. So there, his mother is trying to coax him, trying to convince him to have something. But he keeps asking the same question. How is the Prophet ﷺ? I need to know how he is after that attack on us. And then he said that I swear by Allah, I'm not going to touch a morsel of food. I'm not going to taste a morsel of food. I'm not going to take a sip of water until you take me to him. Until I find out how the Prophet ﷺ is. His mother said, my son, how am I supposed to know? He said, go to Jamil bint al-Khattab, the sister of Umar radiallahu anhu. He said, go to her and ask her. So she went. And at this time the Muslims were really scared of what has just happened and what is going on. And no one trusted anyone. Because the moment you revealed to someone that you were a Muslim, your life was in danger. So when Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu's mother went to Jamil, she said, look, this is what has happened to my son, Abu Bakr, and this is what happened today. And he keeps asking, how is Muhammad? How is Muhammad? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So Jamil replied in a very clever way. She said, look, I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know Abu Bakr, I don't know Muhammad, I don't know any of this. But from the sounds of it, your son is in bad shape. I can come and visit him. She said, okay. So when she brought this lady to see Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Jamil radiallahu anha, she broke down and she started crying. She said, look what they've done to you. And he said, no, I'm okay. It's just that the way they pounded my face and they mashed my nose, they crushed my nose, this is really what's hurting the most. So he said, let's go. Take me to the Prophet ﷺ. She said, your mother is listening to you. He said, don't worry about her. You have no threat from her. There's no danger from her. Let's go. So they supported him and walked him. He wasn't able to walk, but they kind of dragged him to the Prophet ﷺ. When Nabi ﷺ saw Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he began to cry and he hugged him and he began to kiss him, and the Muslims began to kiss him, and everyone started crying when they saw how badly he has been beaten up. Even in that state, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu says, O Prophet of Allah, my mother is here. She is a great person. She's always taken so much care of me. Why don't you give her da'wah? Why don't you invite her towards Islam? The Prophet ﷺ invited her towards Islam, invited her towards Allah. She accepted Islam on the spot. Look at the strength and the courage of these people, the resilience of these people, and how proud they were of their deen, how proud they were of their Prophet, how attached they were. Nothing could separate them. If we could have even a little bit of that in our hearts, then the world of Muslims today would be a completely different world. And the world outside would look at us with a very different view. There is no respect for people who give up their morals, who don't stand for anything. Those people have no respect. Because you're just like everyone else. So these people earned the pinnacles of success by speaking out for haqq, speaking out for the truth, and remaining committed to their deen, even if it meant going through some hardships. And different kinds of hardships come. But we have to become stronger than the hardship. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was tougher than the people who beat him up. That's why he was able to come out like this. He wasn't necessarily physically stronger, but he was tougher inside. That's what resilience is. When nothing people do or say can change who and what you are. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also give us this type of courage and bravery, this type of strength. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to follow in the footsteps of these people who certainly are our models. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين.